First of all, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. I've worked in industry in various different sectors for over 10 years now. So I've worked in nursing services, digital and TV advertising, and the contemporary art world. I do something a little bit different to the accountants at A4G, and I try to bring the numbers alive to the businesses. So really it's about making sense. So the bits of paper, the balance sheet, the profit loss, and it's about turning that into what actually gives you a clearer picture. It gives you more of an insight into the business and which areas you need to have, when we give you recommendations, which areas you need to change. So the way we go about doing this is we find out what you need. The first step is for you to have a conversation with the client manager or the PA. They already know your business. They know what you're doing. They've got all that information. So really, if you have a conversation with them first, and then from there, I come out and we do a one-to-one discussion with the owner managers. Find out what information you've already got, some of the spreadsheets that you're already using. Are these spreadsheets complete? Are they being done correctly? Are they giving you the information that you need? Very often we find that that isn't the case, and sometimes information is duplicated. So is your system capable of producing what it is that you need, what you want from your business? Is your system doing that for you? So once we've been out and we've looked at all of the systems, we start to set some foundations with you. We look at a report for recommendations, roles and responsibilities within the organisation. Changes to layouts. Sometimes you've got the information there, it just might not be in the right format. You might not be seeing what you want to see from those layouts. We look at new ways of reporting for you. Use of comparisons, this year to last year. Are you doing well? Seasonality. Is this normally where you'll be in your business? From there, we look at some implementation and how we go about doing that. We deal with any training needs, introduce new systems, update routines, and implement checklists. One of our recent clients that we did this with, we went into the business and they were actually entering information into about 8 different areas, which was not necessary at all. And their credit control system was a client file with a post-it note on the front, which just had some information. This obviously is just not, it's not up to date. You know, there's much better systems to use now. And we put these things into practice. The cost for this is around £795. It's a one-off charge, and actually that's for a business, a sort of a small business who's just about to take on their first member of staff. This might seem like a high charge, but actually from the offset, if you've got the information that you need and you're driving the business where you need it to go, then that's a small price to pay. From there, all the clients that we've done the implementation service with, the health check, they move on to the virtual FD service. So this is where we report monthly or quarterly, depending on what the business needs. We look at reviewing everything that's going on in the business and making any corrections at that time that needs to happen. We make commentary on the performance. So are you doing well in this area? Are you doing not so good in these areas? These are the things that we look at. Ratios. Emma spoke earlier about KPIs, and this ties in with ratios. So what is it? What are the ratios that you need for that business? Do you want to know how quickly the cash is coming in? Do you want to know which salespeople are getting those figures in for you, making the profit? Then we make recommendations on those. So it might be a sales overview, it might be a staff overview. Whatever those figures give us, we'll give you some recommendations on that, advice. This is our key thing. You know, we provide you advice to drive your business forward and get it to the direction where you want it to go. And of course, provide ongoing training for this to happen. This is a cost of about £495 a month, and this is for a business of a turnover of about 500k a year. So really, in the grand scheme of things, when you look at where Emma was with the 60,000 to 100,000 a year, 495 is a very small price to pay for the growth of your business. Credit control service. This is another service that we provide. Joe touched on this earlier, so did Emma. Joe organises a training of this so that you might have an in-house credit controller where you can go in and you can train someone. Not everybody's got that in-house credit control person, so not everybody's got that. We can take that from you and we can do that for you. We can retrieve your bad debts. Sometimes you're comfortable with calling that person the first time or sending the email, sending the letter, but actually you might not want to do the ones where they don't pay. So we can do that for you, and we can call the more difficult clients. We can be the bad cop. So I'll go on to a case study now. I'm hoping that all of you can relate to this case study in some way. Firstly, it's a successful business looking for growth and advice on growth. So that's hopefully each and every one of you. They were enjoying significant increases in revenues from 1.8 million to 10 million in 18 months. As you can see, that's quite a high growth. That's quite a high increase in their revenues. They've got an internal bookkeeper who completed a variety of roles using Sage. Increasing creditors meant that they struggled to meet their liabilities when they fell due, and this includes HMRC. Not a good situation to be in, as you can all agree, and the bookkeeper is heavily time restricted. Going back to that 70% that was talked about earlier, that's where the bookkeeper's time was held up. So actually, what we can do is make some suggested changes. We changed them from stage to 0, and then we set up tracking categories. Talked about this briefly earlier. So, you know, sell chairs, sell tables. Which one of these is actually making you a profit? Which one is the one that's driving your profits highest? Which is the better return on everything that you're doing? This is what 0 enables you to do. Processes set up for junior staff to follow. So streamlined systems such as sales invoices, purchase invoices. This makes it just so that the bookkeeper frees up their time to do the more important figures. And we completed management accounts for them monthly. The results. In just 3 months after A4G's input, the management accounts altered significantly. The gross profit per revenue stream was very clear. So when we talked about the tracking categories, it was clear to us from doing this that actually in 1 or 2 areas the company was loss-making, and it was draining cash flows. There was like heavily labour-intensive and high use of materials on these particular products, and there was no profit being generated. So what we did with this client is we decided to cease operating. With A4G, they made a decision to cease operating in the loss-making areas, which meant that the business is now extremely profitable. They've made unbelievable progress in clearing their backlog, which is great for the creditors. As I talked about earlier, they weren't able to meet their liabilities for HMRC and the other creditors. So now they've made progress in doing that. They've got cash reserves now building. Talked about buffer in the bank earlier. This is great. I mean, you need, buffer in the bank if you need future investment, things you might want to grow, buy assets. Cash in the bank is very important. And the staff are happier. Staff are happier, more productivity. That's great. The business is now set to expand. So that's just one example of one of the businesses we worked alongside recently, and there are many benefits. I'll run through some of those now. Forward thinking allows you to make decisions on what's happening now as opposed to what's happening 9 months after your year end's finished. That's historic data. We're dealing with data now that's happening today. So you can act faster with facts rather than gut feeling. Gut feeling is great, and obviously it's important, but if you've got a clearer picture of the figures and you've moved the mist, then that's the way that we can get your business better. So it reduces the risk of making the wrong decisions. If you've got a clearer picture, obviously it's easy to make a right decision. And it highlights underperforming areas and people. I talked about recommendations earlier, and there's definitely, throughout recommendations, there's definitely, areas that can be highlighted where people are perhaps underperforming, staff are not, departmental reviews, those sorts of things, all of those benefits. Emma mentioned earlier, reduces fraud and theft. So yeah, very important. Can't stress how important that is within your organisation. And it's good to have that trust. This goes back to the trust element. So yeah, it brings confidence to the sales team that they can actually service their clients. So actually, with the numbers that you've got and the figures that you've got, and you know where you are, it gives you that confidence that you can say, you know, actually, yes, this is something we can do, and this is right. So in addition to those, we have one-off services, which I'll run through them now, and if there's any questions at the end, just come and grab one of us and we'll go through them in a bit more detail. But benchmarking, Emma touched on this earlier. So how's Mr. Jones doing down the road in the same industry? Do you know how he's doing? Probably not, because you're kind of too busy wrapped up in your own business, too busy trying to look at figures and manage everything, and that's fine. These are services that maybe some people have as a one-off, or some of our clients have these yearly. Cost audit, how much is everything costing? You know, do we necessarily need to get those same products from 14 different suppliers, or can we put those all together and then get a higher discount, you know, from one supplier? Raising finance, you need to look at raising finance for a future investment, for an asset that you might be thinking of purchasing, you know, be it another property, or, you know, another machine, you know, something that will do your business good. Sourcing suppliers, again, I touched on this. So something about utilities, you know, you might want to look at all the utilities. You probably haven't got time to ring, you know, 7 different companies to see whether or not who's the best supplier, who's the best for your area, what it is that they do. We'll do that for you. We'll take that stress away. So insurance brokering. Do you want to get insurance on a fleet of cars or a stream of properties, whatever it may be? We can do that for you and look at all different insurances for you and present you with the information. Business valuations, extremely important. You might want to hand your business down to your children, your family. You might want to sell it in 5 years' time. Whatever your plan is, we can help you plan for that. So, and that brings me on to the next one, exit planning. Again, that's just if you wanted to exit and sell it to the children or whatever you want to do with it. So there are many different services we offer as a one-off, but please feel free to grab us at the end and we can talk you through more of those. My final slide, actually second to last slide, you might all be pleased to know. What keeps you awake at night? I think you can all probably relate to this as owner managers. So work-life balance, how is that for you? Have you got enough time to be doing the things that you need to be doing? Should you be handing over some of that stuff to someone else who can help you? Is cash a problem? Can you pay your creditors? Profit. Are you making as much profit as you would like to be? Is there any way that we can increase this for you, help you? And are you busy compared to other businesses? That brings me back to benchmarking. Are you always in your overdraft? And are you operating in the most profitable way? Whatever it is, don't worry, we've got a solution. We will help you. So I think that's my last slide, and I just have one more, which is just a little saying I thought I'd leave you all with. And it says, do something today that your future self will thank you for. And I thank you all for listening today.